Are you ready to hear the secrets as to how to be a professional investor from a former wealth manager? Hold tight because I'm going to break it down in this video. Welcome back. My name is Zoe and this is my channel, Words on Wealth. And I'm ready in this video to share the secrets as to how you can be a professional investor. Now, here's the biggest secret of them all. Every investor that I know out there always wants to know more because nobody knows all, even the most professional of the professional. So I promise that you'll leave this video with more confidence and more belief in your own investing abilities. You won't leave with perfection because perfection doesn't exist, but you'll leave with all the steps that can get you to feeling like a professional investor from the moment that you start. Let's dig in. So here's the thing. As I say, no one knows it all. Within investing, when people spend their days in it, work in it as their job, they will all have their own specific niches, their fields of specialization. If we take my role, for example, I worked as a financial advisor, specifically specializing in the international space. So I knew a lot about international investments, but I didn't necessarily know quite as much about sustainability, for example. Then you've got tax advisors. They'll know all that there is to know about tax, but they might not know quite so much about investing into bonds. Now let's take those bond fund managers. They'll know all about minute details of different bonds. But if you zoom back out again, they probably won't know a lot about personal finance or taxation or how to deal with cross-border situations when it comes to their finances. It's like a big loop. Everyone has some pool of knowledge, and that's where we all come together. But crucially, no one knows it all. And often I find, and here's another secret for you, that people who are working in the industry almost find this the hardest. They feel trapped by the fact that they do work in finance, but they don't know enough about their own personal finances or investing. They feel even more silly than perhaps somebody who doesn't work in the industry that feels that, not necessarily that they have a right, but they don't need to know these things. Why would they know these things? Couple that with the fact that even professionals that have been in the industry for decades, they've been working the same trading desk for God knows how many years, they can still make mistakes. Nobody has some sort of secret key or the perfect answer to the perfect investment portfolio. It simply doesn't exist. And if it did, of course, every human on the planet would be hopefully a millionaire by now because we'd have found that key, probably stolen it from somebody else, and hacked it down to high heaven. I often find that the scary bit often comes really towards the beginning of a journey because people get excited about investing. They start to understand things like compounding. They get on board with it. And then suddenly they realize what they know that they don't know. And this is the scary bit because they're like, whoa, okay, I've dipped my toe in the pool. I've got a little bit of knowledge, but like, oh my gosh, I've realized that there's so much more out there to always know. And there's always going to be more to know. Myself, anybody else that you speak to who's worked in the industry, who's still working in the industry, there's always more to learn. It's kind of the beauty of it. But you have to get on board with that as a notion. You have to get on board with the idea that it's going to be a constant learning journey. There isn't going to be some sort of unknown level that you reach where it's like, whoa, great, you're a pro. On you go. You can now do all this investing. Just doesn't work like that. There is always a point at which you have to get on board, but you have to be prepared at that point to know that there's going to be bits that you don't know. So here's some actionable items that you can take to make sure that at that point when you get on board, your decisions are informed, but perhaps not necessarily. First and foremost, research the basics. Make sure you've got things in line, like any tax-advantaged accounts that you might be able to access for your investing. Have a look at what you're actually investing in and make sure that you understand it. Also, check the platform, check the product that you're using to invest through. Make sure that you understand the charges on it. If you can't find them, it might not be the right one. If you ensure that those initial ducks are in a row, as I like to say, then you'll have some of the basics nailed from the beginning. You don't need to know absolutely everything, but you need to know enough to understand what you're doing. Now, the next step is all about controlling your emotions. Often what I find is that when people think that they're not professional enough or don't know enough, there's a real level of anxiety that is kicking in around the fear. The fear that they're going to do something wrong, the fear that they're going to lose money, the fear that they're going to put money into something that's just going to disappear overnight. And don't get me wrong, I get it, because we've all read stories where all of those things can happen. And it's super important that you protect yourself so that those things don't happen because they're not ideal outcomes for anyone or anyone's finances. But when it comes to investing, we have to embrace that things are going to go up and down. It's not all going to be plain sailing or hunky dory. It's just simply not realistic. But seeing things go down can be a bit of a step change, especially if, for example, you've just previously had savings and cash where you've seen a steady level of interest tick over. Now, whilst that can lose money in real terms, you don't necessarily see it as much, so there's not so much of a gut-wrenching fear when the red flashes up on your investment. So when you feel that panic, that fear, try to find out why. Not necessarily why you're feeling the fear, because we probably know why that is. That fear is coming from the fact that your money's going down. Try and find out why it's going down. Have a look for some of the logic around it, and try and find similar patterns that have taken place in the past, whereby those downs have most probably led to an up somewhat later. And last but not least, try and start with something simple and familiar. Again, I feel like a lot of people say to me that they're not an investor. They don't categorize themselves an investor because they somehow feel that they haven't taken enough risk. They've not dabbled with individual stocks and therefore it doesn't count. It's not quite the same. That is simply not true. Plenty of people that work in the industry that are professional investors will use the most vanilla, simple funds for their own investments because they make sense. There is nothing wrong with that, and there is nothing unprofessional about that. It's just what works for you. Starting with something relatively simple and familiar can mean that the research points are that little bit easier. It feels just that bit more comfortable, again, tackling some of those emotions. When I say familiar, you might start with, for example, a fund that is based in the country you live in. You might start, if you're individual stock investing, with, for example, a company that you are familiar with. It might not be the perfect investment, but remember, there is no such thing as a perfect investment. It might just be the starting point for your portfolio, to which you build on further diversification in the future as you carry on your research. So there you have it. One of the big secrets to being a professional investor is that nobody knows it all. Let go of that notion, let go of the idea of perfection, and let go of the idea of there being a perfect moment to start investing, to continue investing, or to become an investor. If you've got investments, start calling yourself that from today, because I promise you, you pretty much all will be in some way, shape, or form, whether you realize it or not. It is a constant learning journey, and that is why the likes of me and my channel are here to try and help you through that, because consistency beats the idea of perfection. And as a common phrase often goes with investing, best time to start was yesterday, second best time was today. So if you've got any questions about that, do just drop them in the comments. I hope you're liking these videos, and it has been lovely to see you all today. Have a lovely day and see you on the next video.